What's up, everybody? My name is Mondo Sanchez, and thank you for tuning into the Misunderstood podcast. Before your attention span suddenly dies, especially those of you who are medically or self-diagnosed ADHD, I got a little TikTok for you. Disclaimer, it's not one of these happy TikToks. It's more so one of these kind of TikToks.
I cut my hair. How many times I tried to reintroduce myself? How many times I tried to apologize for who y'all thought I was? Go back and look at it. Y'all laughed at every single time. Even today, I go play in the big three like, he don't belong there. You know his mental this, his mental that. Y'all don't know my mental. Y'all just all thought I came from where y'all came from and then judge where I did. Nah, I'm gonna cry a little bit. Just act like you don't notice. My mom was driving herself to chemo until they put her on hospice. I was mad at my mom for my childhood because my dad was a real nigga. Was looking for me my whole life, and I was looking for him, and you got all these random ass niggas in my life. I wanted my dad. And then I got mad at my mom, and then she died, man. James died 2 days before, my cousin. And I was supposed to be in a funeral, and I was at shoot-around. Like, if I get on this flight, they're gonna think I'm lying about people.
After watching that clip, the biggest thing that stands out to me is how easy it is for people to judge someone without knowing what they are really going through. In the video, he's not just talking about basketball or criticism, he's talking about being misunderstood as a person. People saw his actions, emotions, and the way he carried himself, then created their own version of who he was without knowing the grief, the pressure, anger, and family issues behind it. That is what this podcast is about. How people get each other wrong, why we hold on to our own versions of events, and how assumptions can damage relationships. For my primary research, I am using observation. One observation comes from this TikTok, and the second comes from my own life experience. So to start it off with segment 1, what it means to be misunderstood. Being misunderstood is not just when someone doesn't hear what you said correctly. It can also happen when someone hears you but interprets your words or actions, emotions the wrong way. For example, someone might see you being quiet and assume you're mad. Someone might hear your tone and assume you're being rude. Someone might see you react emotionally to something and assume you're being dramatic or unstable. But what they may not see is everything that happened beforehand, right? That is where misunderstanding becomes a little bit complicated. People are not always reacting to the full story. A lot of the time, they're reacting to the small piece of the story they can only see. Okay, so for segment 2, observation of the TikTok clip, one of the biggest themes is judgment. The speaker talks about trying to reintroduce himself multiple times and apologizing for who people thought he was. That stood out to me because it shows how people can create an image of someone and hold that person to that image, even if it is not accurate. One line that stood out was when he said, "Y'all don't know my mental." To me, that connects to the main point of this podcast. People were judging him from the outside, but they did not ever once know his full situation. When he talks about his mom driving herself to chemo, being put on hospice, losing his cousin, and still having to show up for basketball, it gives the audience a completely different perspective. Suddenly, his emotions are not random. His anger is not just attitude, and his pain has context behind it. That is where people often get each other wrong, right? We see the reaction, but we do not always see the reason behind it. For segment 3, we're going to kind of go behind the psychology of misunderstanding. One psychological idea that connects to this is called System 1 and System 2 thinking. System 1 thinking is fast, automatic, and based on quick reactions. System 2 thinking is slower and more thoughtful. It requires people to pause and think deeper and consider other possibilities in the TikTok clip. It seems like a lot of people judged him using System 1 thinking. They saw his actions or emotions and quickly decided who he was. They did not slow down and ask, what else could be going on? Another concept that connects is the fundamental attribution error. This is when people judge someone's behavior as part of their character, but ignore the situation that may have caused that behavior to begin with. In simpler terms, it is when we say, that person is that way, and that's that, instead of asking what that person might be going through. This connects to the clip because people judged his attitude and mental state without understanding the personal struggles that were affecting him. Another idea is confirmation bias, which is when people look for information that supports what they already believe. Once someone decides a person is rude, dramatic, or unstable, they may only notice the moments that confirm that belief. That is why misunderstanding can be hard to fix. Sometimes you are not just explaining yourself, you are fighting against a version of you that someone already believes. So section 4 is going to consist of my own personal observation. It was a situation that happened maybe 2 months ago, and it impacted the relationships I had with my friends in my life, and is the sole reason why I wanted to talk about this topic for this podcast. The observation from my own life happened within a group of my high school friends. There are about 10 of us, and we're all pretty close with one another. We always do things together, like play board games, go camping, whatever it is, we're all down for it. We're all there. Some people in the friend group were also in relationships with other members of the same friend group. One of those couples was James and Samantha. From my perspective, James and Samantha were both, really cool people. They're trustworthy, honorable, and fun to be around. I never looked at their relationship in a negative way, and I always saw myself as someone who would not ever disrespect it. One night I was invited to Samantha's birthday party with the rest of our friend group. Drinks were involved, music was playing, and everyone was having a good time. At one point though, Samantha started dancing and I just so happened to be nearby. Once I noticed what was going on, I moved away because I didn't want to look like I was trying to do something, or I just didn't want it to look wrong, right? And I didn't want anybody to see it that way either. But later on in the night, though, James pulled me to the side and asked if I could come outside because he needed to talk to me, and which I did. And when we got outside, he told me that he had been keeping receipts of how I've been conducting myself around Samantha. He brought up the way I talked to her, the way I acted around her, and how he felt like I was undermining him whenever they were together. In that moment, I genuinely did not understand how I made him feel that way. From my point of view, though, I had no bad intentions. I saw Samantha as one of my good friends, right? And I saw James as one of the homies, one of the bros. So for him to see me in a negative way, why would you ever think that? Why would you think that I would try to be a homewrecker to your guys' relationship? So it really threw me off. What stood out to me was how different our perspectives were. In my mind, I was just being myself around a friend, but in his mind, he had been building a completely different version of me based on how he interpreted my actions. Looking back, though, I can see how System 1 thinking played a significant role. James may have seen certain interactions between me and Samantha and quickly interpreted them as disrespectful or threatening. Instead of asking what my intentions actually were, he connected those moments together and created a version of the situation that felt true to him. At the same time, I had my own quick reaction. I felt like the situation was almost laughable. Not because I wanted to disrespect them, but because I could not believe a friend who would think I had bad intentions. Looking back, even that reaction could have made things a little worse, because if someone already feels disrespected, laughing or seeming dismissive might make them feel like their concerns are not being taken seriously. This connects to the TikTok clip because both situations show how people can judge based on limited information. In the TikTok, people judge the basketball player from the outside. In my experience, James judged my intentions based on what he observed, but he did not fully know what was going on in my mind. Segment 5 goes into why this topic matters so much. And the reason why it matters so much is because it happens everywhere. It happens with families, friends, school, work, sports, online, you name it. And there's this quote by Edgar Allan Poe that says, "Believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see." I think that quote fits this topic perfectly because misunderstanding often comes from people believing they know the truth based on limited information. Sometimes what we hear is gossip, rumors, or someone else's version of the story. And even what we see can be incomplete because we may only be seeing one reaction, one moment, or one side of a person. It is easy to judge someone's reaction. It is hard to understand what caused it. Since now we're at the end of the podcast, I want the main takeaway to be that the listeners of this podcast understand the main idea is that first impressions and quick judgments are not always reliable. A person's attitude, silence, anger, or emotional reaction may not tell the whole story. Sometimes there is grief, pressure, stress, or personal struggle behind what people show on the outside. When we rely on fast judgment or System 1 thinking, we may miss the deeper truth of what someone is going through. But when we slow down and use system 2 thinking, we give ourselves a better chance to understand people instead of misjudging them. So the main takeaway is this: before we decide who someone is, maybe we should slow down, listen, and ask ourselves if we are seeing the whole story or just one piece of it. Because sometimes people are not asking to be excused, they are asking to be understood.